Hello, my friends. Now, I realize it's been a while since I've posted anything on the political channel, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. So I just thought of something. I have a theory for why Americans, though generally inactive in politics, I think are far more active in politics, at least based off of conversations that I have had with Brits. Um, and I think it's sort of like evolution, because if you think about like the people who founded America, what were they? Well, many of them were like the Pilgrims. They were Protestants who had a specific sort of like religious ideology that disagreed with the Anglican Church. So they were like, oh, well, we're being persecuted here in England. And they went to a bunch of different countries. And eventually they wound up in North America, in the North American colonies. There's much more history to the Pilgrims than that. But that is just the basics, is that after bumping around Europe for a while, the Pilgrims wound up in North America, some in Canada, many in the United States. Or actually, no, I think they would have all been in the United States, because I don't think Canada was a British colony at that point. Whatever, you get the idea. Um, and so America was basically founded by people who, um, were taking that initiative to go and move anyway. And so I think that might be the reason why Americans are much easier to sort of get angry and rile up about things. Whereas if you look at England, like even during World War I and World War II, people would go to like shops that had been bombed out in the middle of the night would still be open. Like they'd literally hang up signs that said, "In spite of the bomb raid last night, we're still open, just a little bit more open than usual." You know, there's actually like pictures of like guys going to work at their jobs and just like digging their desk out from under the rubble of whatever building had gotten bombed out, and then just doing their paperwork. uh it's really like there's some very interesting photos from World War I and World War II from the bombings. Anyway, also another thing I want to talk about is, does communism naturally devolve into fascism? Now, depending on your own personal opinions about communism and fascism and how much you think they're linked, I think they're very heavily linked, as many communist countries, such as China, don't normally have like they tend to be very big government controlled, and sort of like the yeah, or like Soviet Russia was like that, North Korea is like that. There's this great totality, and the government has control of everything. That is why many Americans, actually, personally, we tend to consider fascism as being a left wing ideology, because that kind of big power, because America was founded with very few laws. It's like the first codified law in America was just the Constitution. That's like, and it only originally had 10 amendments. There were America started out with just 10 laws, which is just a crazy thing to think about. Anyway, but like, there's a communist country where everyone gets all that welfare and stuff, sort of naturally, if it stays like that for a long period of time, develop into sort of like a semi-fascist just dictatorship, like what we tend to see in a lot of the big like Soviet, like what we saw in Soviet Russia, and arguably still see today, with Putin, where he has basically complete control and will until he dies. What we see with the president who's now officially a dictator in China, what we see with Kim Jong Un in North Korea, what we see with the leader of Venezuela, who, I now just realize Venezuela is so big of a communist failure, even compared to North Korea. We don't even know the leader of, most people don't even know the name of the leader of Venezuela, whereas most people do know the name of Kim Jong Un.